Guys, last night was an exciting day of women's collegiate level basketball hoops. Okay, of course, I called the upset. Okay, some people don't agree with me. They're like Geneva, NC State. Okay, the Wolf Pack, the Wolf Gang, the Wolf Pucks. Okay, of course, they're the Wolf Pack. They are actually that team. Okay, they're in the top 10. But again, to me, it still was technically an upset because Tennessee is ranked just one more higher in the ranking standings. Okay, than North Carolina. Okay, Tennessee is ranked number 8. North Carolina was, at least they were last night, right? They were ranked number 9. So in my opinion, it's still an upset. But again, that game went on. Tennessee lost without Ruby Whitehorn. Of course, we saw UConn. I didn't get to watch UConn and LSU as much because again, the UConn game was going on at the same time Tennessee was going on. I knew UConn was going to do Louisville. We all knew they was going to do Louisville. Of course, the number 1 ranked team versus the number 20th team. Okay, we saw UConn Huskies. Last night they dominated the Louisville Cardinals. And of course, LSU, I did watch more of that game because it was like later on that night after I came back from the gym. Of course, LSU, okay, Flau'jae Johnson and Malaysia Fulwiley making an impact, a great impact and debut for Louisiana State University. They destroyed Houston, okay, that private Christian school. I'm just calling them Houston, okay. Of course, they won. So again, last night we saw an array of exciting games of women's college basketball. But today, guys, I gotta bring to you a little bit of WNBA news. I miss the WNBA so much, guys. But in today's news, guys, I want to talk a little bit about Sandy Brondello. She was just let go. She was just released. She was just fired from being the head coach of the New York Liberty, even though she was the only coach to get them to their first win. She led them, instructed, coached them to their first win, and she still got fired. But in today's article, guys, she talks a little bit about why she ultimately chose to coach the Toronto Tempo. Okay, I talked about this some weeks ago. It was breaking news that Toronto Tempo had officially hired her to be their head coach, even though, guys, and she breaks it down in this news article that she gave, okay, when she did an interview for the press. She talks about how the Dallas Wings actually wanted her to be the head coach. She actually had an opportunity to coach the Dallas Wings and coach the Paige Bueckers, but she tells us why she decided to ultimately choose the Toronto Tempo. Guys, please allow me to read to you just a little bit of an article brought to you by sportingnews.com. It is titled, Sandy Brondello Reveals Why She Chose Tempo Over Paige Bueckers' Wings. Sandy Brondello on Tuesday was announced as the first coach in Toronto Tempo history, but her surprise coaching free agency period saw 2 other options emerge that she seriously considered. Brondello and the New York Liberty parted ways in September after the Liberty's WNBA title defense ended with a first-round playoff loss to the Phoenix Mercury. All of a sudden, Brondello, a 2-time WNBA champion as a head coach, found herself on the market. In a new interview with The Athletic, Brondello revealed that she had 3 great possible situations arise and that it was a fun process to decide which opportunity was best for her. In the end, Brondello took the opportunity to push the tempo in Toronto, but she could have been Paige Bueckers' new coach in Dallas. It continues. In conversation with The Athletic's Ben Pickman, Brondello revealed that she was contacted by the Wings and the Seattle Storm. I didn't know it was the Seattle Storm too. That's crazy. So Toronto Tempo, Seattle Storm, and the Dallas Wings all was kind of like courting Sandy Brondello in order for her to join their teams as the new head coach. Okay, and of course, ultimately she chose Toronto. It says as they sought new voices on the sideline, Brondello, whose 269 regular season wins are the second most by an active coach, weighed up the pros and cons of joining a Seattle team with championship experience, as well as a Dallas team led by Bueckers, one of the most exciting players in the sport and the WNBA's Rookie of the Year for 2025. She quotes saying, in Seattle, I probably could have had a chance to win straight away. Interesting. In Dallas, there's Paige Bueckers, Brondello said, but I just felt like building something from the ground up, doing something new and doing it in a different country. I like that. I respect that. Because again, for me, if you ask me, if I was Sandy Brondello, I would jump to Paige Bueckers. I would have been like, yes, I accept outright. I want to be the head coach of the Dallas Wings, okay? Because they deserve better. After y'all already know how I felt about Chris Koklanis just this past 2025 season. Man had them out there looking crazy. Terrible coaching. Terrible. He wouldn't fight for them. He wouldn't challenge plays. He wouldn't challenge foul calls. He just was worthless, pretty much, as the head coach. No tea, no shade. I ain't even trying to be mean, but we already know what it was. Chris Koklanis gave us nothing. He was just that fun. It's all about the vibes. It's about we need to love each other. It's all about that locker room type of coach. If I was Sandy Brondello again, she ultimately, of course, she chose Toronto Tempo, and I respect her decision. She said, like, you know what? I want something new. I want a new challenge. I want to be the head coach is something completely new from scratch. I can build this team up, and I like that. But if I had her position, if I had the chance, I would have chose Dallas Wings because I know I can give them what they needed. And of course, it's the Paige Bueckers. Like, girl, I would love to coach Paige Bueckers. Ultimately, it comes back to the people. The vision Monica and team president Teresa Resch had. They sold me on that. It continues. Seattle ultimately pivoted to Sonia Ryman. I'm sorry, I'm kind of butcher her name. I think it's Ryman. One of Brondello's assistants in New York. Okay, because again, Sonia Roman, guys, she's also the first Indian woman head coach in the WNBA. She used to be one of the assistant coaches to Sandy Brondello when they were both coaching. They were part of that coaching staff for the New York Liberty. It says as their next head coach, Dallas chose Jose Fernandez, the longtime head coach at the University of South Florida, who met with Gino Auriemma's stamp of approval. So again, Gino Auriemma gave Jose Fernandez the stamp of approval. Again, he seems like a great coach if Gino Auriemma says he is. Because again, Paige Bueckers, this is just human beings, period. Okay, any basketball player. But Paige Bueckers really responds to and rises to the occasion of the coach. Okay, she went from being coached by the Gino Auriemma, who has 12 championship rings, okay, in collegiate women's basketball, to freaking a clown like Chris Koklanis. Chris Clown Koklanis, let's be real. Paige Bueckers was not doing okay. She was suffering under the leadership of Chris Koklanis, okay? And I believe, of course, if Sandy Brondello would have chose ultimately Dallas Wings and to coach Dallas and Paige Bueckers and the entire Dallas Wings organization could have been possibly turned around. They could have did a complete 180 under the leadership of Sandy Brondello. It closes out. Only time will tell as to whether Brondello will build the kind of winning team she envisions in Toronto, but fans will wonder as to what a Brondello-Bueckers pairing might have done to the rest of the WNBA. Again, I respect her decision and even the thoughts and the reasoning behind why she ultimately chose to go to Toronto Tempo. I think it's great. She said, it's all about the people, the culture. She spoke with Teresa Resch and Monica. Okay, I believe those are the GMs, or at least they're part of the front sports organization for the Toronto Tempo team. But again, I would have loved to see Sandy Brondello coach Paige Bueckers and the Dallas Wings. They deserve so much better. That entire city, like Dallas, Texas, that's a huge franchise, because again, the Dallas Wings, guys, like I always say, is the little sister to the big brother being the NBA team, who the Dallas Mavs, the Mavericks. And it's like they have such a huge basketball town. They deserve great coaching. They deserve it. Okay, Paige Bueckers deserves it. The Dallas Wings as an organization deserves it. I believe they have never won a championship. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. Okay, I'm not above correcting. Like the city of Dallas, Texas deserves great coaching. Okay, it's not right. It's not fair that Chris Koklanis literally just ran them into the ground. It got so bad that my Chicago Sky, y'all know that's my number one WNBA team. They couldn't even beat, it wasn't one game this past 2025 WNBA season where we saw the Dallas Wings take on and ultimately defeat the Chicago Sky. That's how piss poor of a coach Chris Koklanis is. Because y'all know my Chicago Sky, I love them. Again, I love them down, no tea, no shade. They played terribly. Okay, they have a reputation to being like one of the bottom low tier teams in the WNBA. But the Dallas Wings still couldn't beat us because Chris Koklanis is just that terrible of a coach. Again, shout out to Sandy Brondello. I'm so excited for her. I'm happy that, she's getting another chance to coach in the WNBA as a head coach, and she's going to take on the challenge of Toronto Tempo, a team that's going to be made from the ground. It's going to be a team that she has to build from scratch. And she's like, you know what? I'm up for the challenge. I'm all about the people. I want to take on the challenge of being a head coach to a new expansive team in the WNBA. So again, shout out to Sandy Brondello. It is what it is. But again, I would have enjoyed to see what she could have did for Dallas Wings and Paige Bueckers. But guys, comment down below your thoughts on Sandy Brondello and her reasoning as to why she ultimately chose to coach Toronto Tempo over Seattle Storm and Dallas Wings and Paige Bueckers.